Everybody, I'm Reverend Charlotte McGinnis, and as always, I appreciate you joining me here on Sunday mornings or maybe sometime thereafter. So anyway, it's a beautiful day here in Flat Rock, and hopefully it is wherever you are too. But remember, it's only as beautiful as we allow it to be. So we see the world as we are, not as it is, but as we are. So check in. How are you seeing the world today? That's always a good question to ask yourself. The world, in other words, is just a projection of my thoughts, feelings, emotions, beliefs, my past, anything I'm carrying into it. So how are you seeing the world today? It's beautiful. And we're going to get rain here in a few minutes from what I understand. And that's a good thing too. So as always, thank you. And if you feel inspired to share this, you can do it from the YouTube channel. Just share the link. There's a place to share it, or Facebook, just share it. So thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm going to get right into the conversation today. And let me get there. I had a little issue with the technology today, but what else is new, right? So, but I figured it out and I'm going to make it work. And here we are. So happy. I found my page. So anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit. I want to build on what I spoke of last week. An unexamined life is not worth living. That quote from teaching from Socrates. And that is definitely something that I have in always on the back of my mind, or maybe the forward part of my mind, that I'm always thinking about assessing, evaluating, not getting into analyzing so much as just like, okay, what about this? What about that? And sort of letting it pass through. And back to the beginning, as I said, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. I take that to be a universal truth. I am a seeker of truth. I think that that's what brought me to here today, to this point, and led me from, my spiritual upbringing in the Methodist Church, which was wonderful, but something spoke to me and said that there was more, that it wasn't by any means taking meaning and value away from that experience, but understanding that there may be more to this. And boy, when I opened myself up to find the truth, that has led me down a lot of interesting paths. And that's been a fun journey and a beautiful journey. And one that's just opening me up more and more because, hey, it's what I like to do. And I know a lot of you guys like to do that as well. I'm also a very curious person, as you all know. Those of you that know me, I ask a lot of questions. I'm very curious as to what makes people behave and think the way they do, not from a judgmental perspective, but like, why would they think that way? And as a result, I've had a lot of miracles of my own, a lot of shifts in perception, where I was holding on to my thoughts about one thing. I was able, through asking deep questions and without judgment, and I think I hold a safe place for people just asking questions, I was able to say, yeah, okay, I can understand. Might not agree, but I can certainly understand. So that to me is part of my spiritual awakening or my spiritual path. And I definitely, as many of you may or may not know, I've been in radio for many years. I had radio shows in Florida, up here in Flat Rock on the local station, doing a lot, obviously on Facebook, and now this is a little more, beyond Facebook. It's YouTube and other venues. But I'd like to also interview people. I have the heart-to-heart soulful conversations, which I've done, and I'm ready to pick back up here very shortly. So an unexamined life is not worth living. Back to the Course in Miracles. We need to question every value and belief that we hold about everything. And when we do that with an open heart, an open mind, and not necessarily, surrendering to what comes from that in the greatest degree of love, without an agenda or trying to influence it with my thoughts or my past, but rather from presence, wow, the whole game changes. We can be in the world, not of it. We can watch the movie, as they say, from above the battleground. I've learned that I think that all of our suffering comes from wanting things to be different, darn it. And you know what? Sadly, the world is not necessarily going to do what we want it to all the time, but peace is always an option. And so how do we find that peace? Well, that's what I choose to share with you every week. Things that I've learned, things I've experienced. Take what you like, leave the rest. You might not like any of it. You might like a lot of it. It doesn't matter. I don't need, I'm not here in the convincing business. I'm just sharing thoughts and ideas, which prompts me to another quote from A Course in Miracles, that if we're, holding on too strongly to our beliefs, and we say we want to open up, we say we want to heal, we say we want to be in unity and peace and oneness, but only if this fits into my little box of how I believe and think. And then the quote I was referring to is, no evidence will convince you of the truth you do not want. And I find I get that was one that came right between the eyes with me more than a few times, and still does. It's kind of like sometimes I feel like I need to make my point or convince someone of why I think the way I do, or have to make another side wrong. And I'm finding more and more that that's my ego. That's the unhealed part of myself that is needing that, because those who see themselves as whole make no demands. Another beautiful quote from the Course, right? As I study with my buddy back here over my shoulder, Paramahansa Yogananda, he is the embodiment of unconditional peace and love and acceptance, non-duality. I think for us to be awake, which is my mantra and desire for the year, we have to let go of how we think things should be and just be more in acceptance of what is. And just as I said, above the battleground, watch it without judgment. Not so easy, but possible. I've been there, I've done it, and I'm choosing to master that. So Mahatma Gandhi, Examination of Self through his autobiography, My Experiments with Truth, highlights the significance of reflections on life. Gandhi was not only able to map his weaknesses and vulnerabilities through his examination, but was also able to question his prejudices and understand his strength as a human being. So again, Gandhi, even, I would not say even, I would say those who are spiritually evolved, maybe more awake, have chosen to examine those thoughts, question our prejudices. Why is it I need for everybody to think the way I think, or be the way I am? And so Gandhi, I love what he stood for and who he was. If you know me, one thing I will say, I go through, I am a seeker of truth. I'm looking for that universal truth that binds us, not divides us. And I feel that it comes from there's a little nugget everywhere if we're just open to it. And the days of looking for that Messiah outside of myself are long gone. Yes, I appreciate the messages of many, and many of those are opposing to my beliefs, but I go in with an open heart. When I'm triggered, what is it that triggered me? Why did I get upset at that? Well, from what I've learned on my journey, is that my suffering is because or my depression, according to the Course, is that I want this dream to be different, and I want it to be the way I want it to be, damn it, and then we get all upset, and then we have to get allies, and I've played that game. I still do some, but I know that I want to wake up more than anything. I really do. So I do a lot of self-evaluation. And I do choose to let go of the past, and I do choose to forgive. Well, Robert Frost poem, famous poem, The Road Less Traveled. What does that mean exactly? Metaphorically speaking, someone who takes the road less traveled is acting independently, freeing themselves from the conformity of others. And the conformity of others are those who choose to take the road more often traveled. So what I've come to find out is, although this journey is a beautiful journey, and I do choose the road less traveled, I don't, I use the filter of my heart, invite the Spirit into the Holy Spirit into my conversations, and I ask for this to be truth. I want to be free of how I think it should be, and recognize that every time I'm triggered, it's an opportunity for me to heal, truly. So why did this upset me? Well, because I want this dream to be different. Again, the world is not meant to be fixed. It's meant to be forgiven. And so we're going to talk about that. My whole dialogue, my whole conversation, my passion over the past few years has been building on this time of great change and uncertainty, and all of the yuckiness is coming up for us to look at and to heal and take self-responsibility for. It's no longer about pointing fingers and say, you hurt me. I don't like what you said. I don't like the way you behave. It's your fault. That's all our projection. Spotless mirror goes back to our buddy from Zero Limits. His name just left me. Doesn't matter. He wrote the story about the Ho'oponopono, which is the ancient Hawaiian forgiveness practice, and that practice is to clean. When I saw him on Dr. Hugh Len, who is a practitioner of this, psychiatrist, he's always about cleaning our own consciousness, our projection. And through this, we can literally move mountains. But we're so programmed and tempted to jump out and say, we got to fix this, we got to blame this, we got to judge this, and this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is left. And what really got me jazzed up in this, feeling like this is my purpose, at least for now, what I'm here to do, was several years ago. I was having a conversation with someone, a good friend who I respect very much as a spiritual teacher, very intelligent man, does a lot of research, is, for me, the embodiment of heart space living. Definitely have watched him interact with people. And although he may have his own thoughts and opinions about things, he's confident in those and in sharing those, and doesn't necessarily need the approval of others to agree or disagree. And just as a human being, he's a terrific guy. So what happened was, we were talking, I was driving to Florida, had several hours in the car, and got it on the phone, and we were talking, and it was shortly after President Trump was elected. So now we're looking back at 2016, right? And I was just like, I was like, tell me how I can find peace with this man. I mean, I was like, yuck, Antichrist. I mean, I was just like all over it, right? And I'm not going to go into the dialogue. It's not necessary at this point. I might at another time. But what I will say is, and this person was not an advocate for or against Trump. It wasn't about that. But the conversation led me to see President Trump in a different light. And so that led me down like, okay, why do people think the way they do? A lot of my friends, good people, have very opposing viewpoints than me. But so why is that? And I'm like, how can they think that way? Why do they do the things they do? Well, what has happened, because I've chosen to engage and be curious and ask questions with an open heart, not with an agenda to change their mind or to be right, I have a very different understanding of where people come from. Because, there's good people with opposing beliefs all the time. So I think it's a decision that I made, or that we can make, to unify rather than divide. It's this world is waking up. All the yucky stuff, as I said a minute ago, has got to come up for us to heal, and for this great emergence of light to come in fully. The darkness has to go, and the darkness is not necessarily the behaviors. Those behaviors and actions are a byproduct of consciousness. So if I'm feeding and judging something I don't agree with or don't like, I'm actually making that more real and feeding what I don't want. So I'm getting that so much more. So I really, again, every time I'm triggered, I'm like, Now, triggered is when it upsets me, gets something going, and it's not a bad thing, because it's actually something to be healed. But sometimes I can just hear something and say, that doesn't resonate with me. And just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean that it's not, it's just doesn't resonate with me, but I don't have to make it wrong or right. I have the confidence now to be more accepting. Now, does this mean that we just sit back and watch the show? Well, yeah, I do believe that ultimately. And I do believe that when we are called to service, okay, which we are, and I'm very much into service, and I'm, I've been watching this. This just popped in my mind. This wasn't intended part of the talk, but the New Amsterdam is a great series. I guess it was an NBC series, and now it's on Netflix. And it's about this hospital in New York, public hospital, New Amsterdam, and this Max, who's the new chief of staff, and he's a remarkable person. It's a great show. It's very good. Anyway, Ellen and I have been really enjoying that. And his mantra is, how can I help? How can I help? And he just, goes through so energetic. He's helping and supporting and finding solutions. And sometimes they're like, wow, that's different, but wow, how creative and awesome is that? And I really feel he's just channeling the intention to find solutions from the greatest degree of love, whatever that is. And so he's making room for the miracle and something that maybe we haven't thought of before. So check it out. It's a really cool show. And so how can I help? Yes, sometimes we're called to service, but I remember this was another less everything. If we're here on planet Earth, folks, we're in a classroom. We're here to learn, to see the world forgiven. We're here to awake from our agendas and our false beliefs and trying to move around the chairs on the Titanic as it's sinking. It ain't going to work, right? But years ago, when I first, the Palm Beach Center for Living, when that opened, 1993, we were definitely a huge service ministry. And I was facilitating many Course in Miracles groups during the week at that time, and doing tons and tons of service to primarily people with HIV/AIDS, but it did extend and expand more to the community in other ways. But that being said, I was doing this someone had mentioned to me, why are you called to do this? And it was not a healthy calling at the time, let's say. I realized that it was an unhealed aspect of myself that I felt could have been healed through going out and serving. And I did have, I was an advocate, and I was very self-righteous, and that was definitely where I was at the time. And it's fine to be an advocate, and it's fine to have strong feelings, but why are we doing this? What's my motivation? Is it just selfless? Am I just giving selflessly, or am I using it as a trying to find a way to fill a hole that I think needs to be filled. So we have to question every value, every belief, every action we take, and just listen, and just let it flow through. We don't have to like grab it like a rattlesnake and like analyze the crap out of it. That's not what it's about. It's just about, okay, that's okay, spirit. And it just flows through us and we can just recognize it. And it's pretty cool. So we're here, like I said, to Classroom Earth, to learn forgiveness at a deep level, to learn that we are all one and we're all playing our roles. And those situations and those people that are triggering us the most and upsetting us the most have actually come in a great amount of love at a soul level to teach us big lessons. And it's like, don't like that one. But I've come to believe that is the truth, whether we like it or not. And sometimes I don't like it. I'll just say it, but I know it's true. What's Oprah say? What I know for sure, I do know that for sure. Have I mastered it? Getting better. Haven't mastered it. I've also learned not to dehumanize others that I disagree with. In my own self-righteousness, I can very easily become the very thing I dislike in others. So it's like what we see, Carl Jung, right? What we see in others, what triggers us in others is an unhealed aspect of ourself. Heal that first, then, ask the question, why is this prompting this reaction in me? What's this about? See the light, surround that situation or that person with love, light, and forgiveness. Well, I can remember the advice from our parents, and you all probably, it's not so much the program today, but when I was growing up, you always heard, don't talk about sex, politics, or religion. Did you ever hear that one? And so, good or bad, it's interesting. And what prompted me to think about this was, I remember before my father passed away, I was talking to him about one of his siblings. He had 5 siblings. There were 6 kids. And I asked him if one of them was a Republican or a Democrat. I'm not even sure why I asked him that, to be honest. And he and his siblings were very close all their life. Some left the planet earlier than others. He was the youngest and here till the last one to leave. But I suppose that 1 or 2 of them were still living at this time. And I asked him, and he said, and they were close. They talked about things. They worked together, And I said, so was so-and-so a Republican or a Democrat? My dad said, I don't know. And I was like, what? You don't know? And I thought that was like a peculiar, at first I was like, wow. But then now I get that, sometimes it's best just not to talk about certain things and sort of hold your thoughts close. And sometimes, I think we're led to talk about that, but make sure, I'm seeing where politics and medicine and agendas and all of these things there's so many different viewpoints, and I'm seeing the triggers and what I'm seeing is it's upsetting people. And so, maybe it's good to talk about it and see what's coming up, but use it as a means for healing, a call for love rather than separation. We're so divided. I do feel that we're slowly but surely climbing out of this, and that we will awaken together. When we take that final step, as the Course of Miracles says, that final step from the dream or the illusion of fear or earth to heaven, being asleep to awake, is holding our brother's hand, and no one is exempt. And I'm thinking, I don't want to hold their hand, but I'm working on it. And the universe gives me many opportunities to heal every day because I've asked for it. And I laugh now. I don't resist it so much. I'm like, okay, I get it. And I go with it. Okay, yep, I've asked for this and I do want to heal. So show me another way to view this, to be in this situation. So we're in times of intense change in the world. This is all good. It's leading us to a new world, a new earth. You know, Eckhart Tolle wrote a beautiful book 15 years ago, The New Earth. Wonderful book. And the conversation of many from many different perspectives, which I've really looked at many and all of them. We're all feeling this huge transformation. And there's so many thoughts and opinions as to what this new earth looks like. And maybe, how many is that? I would say as many souls as there are on the planet, maybe 8 billion. So everybody's got their thoughts, beliefs about how this looks. And we, you know, what are we going to do? Well, what can I do? Listen to my heart. Let that be the filter of everything that comes through, and let the rest go. Surrender to spirit. Ask to be guided in love. And, you know, I find this Rumi quote. It's one of my favorites. It's one I've shared many times. And it says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, and I'll meet you there. So it's kind of like step out of the duality, step out of the judgment. Let's find that middle ground where we can all, and it has nothing to do with behavior. It has to do with acceptance. We don't have to wait for someone to change to meet them there. You know, there is a field beyond what I think things need to be. Well, Ramtha. Many of you all know who Ramtha is. Many of you don't. Ramtha is a spiritual teacher that a wonderful woman, J.Z. Knight, Ramtha comes through her, channels his energy. And great teachings. Can't say like it, you know, there's not one teacher that I'm like, the closest thing to being the absolute truth for me is A Course in Miracles. I will say that. I don't find too much there that I find opposition to in my heart. Just me. I can't, not sitting here selling it or not selling it, defending it or whatever. But Ramtha is a wonderful teacher. And I remember Ramtha was talking about depression. And Ramtha says, you know why you're depressed? It's because you want things to be different. You're looking so hard for that Messiah, that person to fix it and change it. And ultimately you realize that your journey is your own, and there's no one out here who can take it for us. And that's a scary place. But it's also, you know, ultimately time for us to take responsibility and understand that we heal. We have all the support we need. Absolutely. We have angels and guides and everything we need at our disposal. We have these talks ad infinitum. I mean, all the time, there's things we can listen to, but ultimately it comes down to the decisions and the choices we make. It reminds me of a woman I used to give golf lessons to. She was a pretty wealthy gal from New York, and she wanted to learn golf. And she wasn't young, she wasn't old, but she wanted to learn the game. She took it up in her 60s, and she was taking lots of lessons and spending a good bit of money. And she says, okay, just tell me how much this is going to cost. I'll buy the golf game. I don't care what it costs. Just let's do it now. And I said, I wish it was that easy, but you know, it was the process. And so we developed a great friendship, and she eventually became a pretty good golfer. But, you know, we can't buy our way into this. Ultimately, it's a single journey that we take by ourselves. Back to Carl Jung, where your fear is, that is your task. You know, what is it that triggers us? Why are we fearful? It's on us individually to get to where we want to be. Wouldn't it be nice if someone could do it for us? That's why relationships don't work. Okay. And this is a whole other dialogue, but I think the Course in Miracles there again has a very powerful teaching on relationships, holy versus special. And what happens? Okay, let's just you find this soulmate and you come together and it's all love and oh, you complete me and oh, so what that I love what Marianne Williamson said. She said it's not love, it's actually bondage because you complete me. You're filling that void in me. Then all of a sudden that special love turns into hate. So the reason relationships fail is because once that person stops filling my checklist of what I need them to be, then, what good are you? So really, those who see themselves as whole make no demands. A holy relationship is a relationship where we allow each other to be who they are and just hold that space without judgment. And that is a very high relationship. I don't need anyone to be any different for me to be okay. And that requires spiritual maturity. I believe that's a very spiritually mature approach to relationship, choosing a holy over special relationship. And that doesn't only mean just between your primary relationship. These are usually most present, I think, I think we attract, our soulmate, our families, work relationships, community relationships, all sorts of things. But, holy relationships are where we can just allow and accept everyone to do and be who they are fully. That is a holy relationship. So remember, I am not a victim. I am free, for I am still as God created me. I'm not a victim of the world. I'm not a victim of anything. I don't have to take sides at all. I do. This is something, and maybe this will resonate to you. I had this epiphany a few years ago, I don't know, 10 years ago, about history and how we keep recycling history, and we got to go back to history to this is historically what has happened. And well, guess what happens when you go back and try to learn from history? Well, you're putting your energy on that and you're bringing it into the present. I think this new paradigm is really about totally forgiving the past, okay, completely, staying present, asking the Holy Spirit to guide every step I take, every thought I think, every action I have, and just lead me in the greatest degree of love possible. And so instead of going to history for, answers, that's why the history repeats itself, right? Oh, this has been going on for thousands of years. Well, yeah, no wonder, because we keep saying history is repeating itself. I got that one loud and clear years ago. So I don't really look to history. I look at it and I can appreciate it, but that's not where I want my guidance. I want to sort of get rid of that and find a new truth. I want to know the truth. I want to know my truth. I don't need to follow the masses or have the support of the masses anymore like I used to. I can get here on Sundays and other days of the week and speak from my heart, and it doesn't matter. I'm not looking for anything from this except just sharing from my heart. That's it. So I like to listen to opposing viewpoints, but I invite spirit into the conversation and come to my own conclusions and have the confidence to follow that. Regardless, if there's 500 people and I'm like, doesn't make sense to me, doesn't feel right to me, doesn't mean they're wrong, just not my truth, not where I am on the ascension vibe. That doesn't mean they're lower or higher. It just means not where I'm at. It takes courage because, we have this need as egos and humans to be heard and to be agreed with and encouraged. And yeah, you're right. And this and that. And as I've said on a number of occasions, my best intentions have gotten me nowhere. So I'm like, well, might as well just just put it out there and see where it lands. So I have to let go of the need to be right. Do you prefer to be right or happy? It can be a lonely path, absolutely, but the universe will, attract exactly who and what we need to support our growth process and healing, and things do change. It's worth it because there is nothing in this world, nothing that gives us a glimpse of what heaven is. And I do believe that. I think we have holy instants where it's like, oh yeah, I like that. But ultimately we're looking for heaven, and it's never going to be found in this 3D earthly experience. So for this new paradigm to fully emerge, we have to let go of his story or her story, all of our stories, and begin anew. The strongest people are those who are still kind after the world has torn them apart. Well, not, again, just sharing, and I own it. It's, I look back, and instead of being in the story of my wounds, I understand now those were all things that happened for my growth, for my awakening. I've invited every player in, and those that I felt did the most harm probably came in the greatest degree of love. Took a long time to get there, but I really do believe that. So if you must look back, this is Maya Angelou. If you must look back, do so forgivingly. If you must look forward, do it so powerfully. However, the wisest thing we can do is to be present in the present and grateful. Maya Angelou. So do it, if we look forward, do it prayerfully, not powerfully, prayerfully. So when we look forward, my prayer, thy will be done. I'm not praying for an outcome. So the one thing, again, that common thread that resonates with my heart. Well, what do we do? We're, the stuff's hitting the fan. It's tough times here. Stuff's coming up. I think the consensus of the teachers and the teachings that I resonate to, do everything you can to raise your vibration. Rise above the battleground, forgive, question your intentions and your triggers, heal yourself, stay in your heart, and focus on the world you want. Don't give your attention to what you don't want. How often do we do that? A lot. So, and we're feeding the matrix of that which we don't want. So I don't know what I want really, except I want to be free, peaceful, happy, compassionate. I want to be awake, whatever that means. And I just choose to trust the process. So moving forward, I love this Joseph Campbell quote. It says, life is like arriving late for a movie, having to figure out what was going on without bothering everybody with a lot of questions, and then being unexpectedly called away before you find out how it ends. So, it's kind of like, that's kind of how life is. And so, we can sort of step back and choose another way. Takes courage. It's a single woman's journey, but well worth it. And in closing, back to Robert Frost, two roads diverged into a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And I will say amen to that, because it does make all the difference. It's not easy sometimes, but it does make the difference. We're on our own journeys here, folks, and I encourage you to have the courage to tune into your heart and question every belief that you have, everything that's keeping you in a divisive state of being. It's a journey well taken. Have a great week, everybody. Just want to put out to you next Saturday, 3 p.m. We are beginning a new Angel Squad. It's myself, Reverend Dr. Bonnie Barnes Kelly, and the founder of Alliance of Divine Love, Dr. Barbara Selwa. And we're going to be a new format. So it's really going to be fun. It's going to be meditation, an intention for the group, and a message from Barbara, and then followed by conversations. So it'll be on my Facebook page. You can check it out, or you can track me down and I'll give you the info. Anyway, in the meantime, have a fabulous week. Forgive, rise above the battleground, and be in peace. Namaste.